Hello, my Aloha tribe, and welcome to the Aloha Perspective, where you get a little bit of something and a whole lot of everything. Happy Thursday! It's Thursday, and I am back with the Soul Truth Awareness cards. I love these cards, and they're really kind of helping since I've been kind of trying to figure out what am I going to talk about. So there you go. Anyways, it's still so warm here. It is warm. It's going to be in the high 80s today, possibly the low 90s. I know. Anyways, I do have this card, the Affirmators card, and I did look at it, so it's kind of the one we've had before, but I really kind of like it because I feel like in a small way it might go with the topic for today. But the topic for today is, am I ready to let go of this buried shame? So am I ready to let go of this buried shame? The feeling of shame is the lowest energy frequency there is. When you live in shame, you live in darkness. What part of you is ready to stand in the light? Is there any shame from a past experience that is ready to be healed? So today's soul action, we'll get to that after we talk about this for a little bit. But, sorry, the hot weather makes everything itchy. I know. All right. So anyways, I know this is a tough subject, so maybe that's why I'm feeling a little anxious. But yeah, let's get into this. I'm sorry. This is a tough subject, and it's one to really hard to really kind of. It's a subject that's really kind of hard to wrap your head around. But we're gonna do our best. All right, we're gonna do our best. And when I say we're, I mean us. So, us is in me and you, just in case that didn't come across. But again, am I ready to let go of this buried shame? So I know yesterday and the day before, I've kind of talked about how sometimes it can be hard to let things go because we sit inside of this comfort zone. We sit inside of this comfort zone that just kind of sits there and says, okay, I may not like everything that's surrounding me. I may not even like my thoughts, but it's comfortable here because I'm familiar with it. It's the familiarity that kind of keeps us trapped sometimes because, going out of your comfort zone can be scary, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen. Will I fail? Will I not fail? And again, look at fail as like a 4-letter word, all right? And I mean that in the negative sense because fail is a 4-letter word. We're not really failing. We're just learning how to do something differently because maybe that time didn't work. And sure, the word fail is, obviously synonymous with that. But at the same time, it has become such a really kind of stigmatized word in the sense that it's not just, oh, well, they failed to do this, they failed to do that. It's like, oh my God, I'm a failure. And it impacts people in a very upending way. So when we talk about shame, a lot of times, it can be hard to step out of that comfort zone. It can be hard to, say, okay, I'm ready to get rid of this. I'm ready to let go of it because you're going to have to face it. Okay, you're going to have to face it. And that can be scary in itself. So you can see I'm kind of struggling with this one. I'm tripping over it a little bit, but yeah. So I'm trying to figure out how to really talk about this because it's not that easy. Depending on, your life, you may have something that's super shameful, or it could be something that, you've done that you're ashamed of, and it may not even be that bad. The varying degrees of shame, it can go from one end to the other. So, I am really, really sorry. I am really struggling with this one, and I'm not really sure why, because I feel like I've gone through all this. I feel like, but I guess I also don't want to be a broken record. And, shame can be so paralyzing in a lot of ways, depending on what we've done. I mean, there are people who might be ashamed of their actions that don't know how to make amends for it, or, maybe it's just, I don't know. Shame can be a lot of things. So it can be, like I said, things that we went through that were absolutely not our fault. It could be things that came from that shame that kind of poofed out onto other people that is totally our fault. And when, when trauma causes a type of shame where you start lashing out at other people, you become ashamed in two different ways now, right? Because now you've gone through all this horrible stuff, but now you're lashing out and acting out. And it's not fair to the people around you. But the best we can do is to just, take a deep breath and, close our mouths before we say something we don't mean. But the biggest thing we can do for ourselves is to really just kind of, dig deep to what needs to be healed. Reach into this part of ourselves that needs to be healed. And it can be scary, and it can be a little upending, as I mentioned earlier, but it is completely worth it. One of the ways to get rid of shame is to do shadow work. And I've talked about this previously. I've talked about how it is probably best to have professional help, or at least some kind of, solid support group before you do that, because depending on how much you need to go inward, how far you need to go inward, it can get pretty hairy sometimes. And, some people may go through it so easily, right? But if you're not willing to really if you're kind of an unwilling participant in your own experiment, i.e., you want to do it, but maybe subconsciously you're not ready for it, but it has to be done, you might give yourself some pushback. Now, when all that happens, don't shame yourself. We as humans have a tendency to really, really rake ourselves over the coals, right? Sometimes there are days where we can't even blink right, and yes, I know exactly what I'm saying there, but everything we do just feels wrong. And maybe that's our shame coming up from a different way. Maybe it's just kind of presenting itself and making you feel bad about yourself. And sometimes the way to go around that is, again, to heal it. Not even go around it. You have to go through it to grow through it, right? You have to feel it to heal it. And the only way to do that is to really kind of buckle down and figure out what the shame is that you have to get rid of, that you have to, and I mean it when I say get rid of it, because shame doesn't serve anybody. It serves no purpose except to bring us down and to anchor us into a spot that we may not want to be anchored into. And like I said, sometimes it can be difficult to move through it, to move out of our comfort zone. And, I don't know. I don't know why I'm really struggling with this one today. I was so excited about the subject. This was almost the subject for yesterday's self-care. And I decided to do the mindful messages instead. But I think maybe this is hard for me, because for as much as I talk about releasing all this stuff, I still carry a lot of shame in my life. I still carry a lot of the shame of things that happened to me when I was younger, and I still carry a lot of the shame of, my outbursts because of that. And I think that's why it's kind of hard to speak to this, because there's things that I still need to get rid of. But maybe that's the reason this came up, is because I'm working through it. Even with the shadow work, I'm still working through it. I'm learning how to be perfectly imperfect. I'm a Capricorn, and I know that'll go over some people's heads, like, there she goes. But one of our traits is perfection. And to be honest with you, perfection doesn't exist. It can exist in certain things, but it doesn't exist across the board consistently. Because, what you might think is perfect, someone else might not think is perfect. Or maybe you're shooting so hard for perfection that, when somebody moves one thing out of place in your house, all of a sudden, it's just like, oh my God. And it just becomes this whole thing, right? And so, but then to me, perfection is a bad trait, and if you feel like you need to be perfect, that's fine. But for me, for me personally, perfection has really kind of upended me in a lot of ways. And so I try to remind myself that I am perfectly imperfect. That every day is not going to be, the best day. Every day might have its imperfections, and that's okay. Not every day is going to feel perfect or be perfect. And yeah, there are moments of absolute perfection. But when we try to make it the only goal in our life, we can fall apart. We can, just kind of, collapse under the pressure, right, of trying to make everything perfect. And that can cause shame as well, because then you feel like a failure. Failure is a big tie-in to shame. But, also, so is trauma of any sort, whatever kind of trauma you've been through. Maybe you have this great driving record, right, on a very different level. You have this great driving record, and all of a sudden, somebody crashes into your car. You're going to start, even though they're at fault, you're going to start thinking everything that could have been done, and then, depending on how your brain works, you might actually start shaming yourself. Like, well, what if I had left later? What if I wasn't trying to do this? What if don't second guess yourself. Second guessing yourself is definitely a part of shame, because, we're so afraid of being wrong, right? That we don't care. We don't care. We just don't want to be wrong, because if we're wrong, that's a shameful thing, and it's not. It's not. But like I said, this has been a harder subject than I thought it would be for me. But I'm going to read the card again. Am I ready to let go of this buried shame? The feeling of shame is the lowest energy frequency there is. When you live in shame, you live in darkness. What part of you is ready to stand in the light? Is there any shame from a past experience that is ready to be healed? So on a very different level, because, it says, are you ready to let go of this buried shame? And I've been trying to think of what it was, because I let go of the shame of my trauma. I've apologized a bazillion times for my outburst before I got help for that trauma. But I do struggle sometimes with trying to do everything for everyone. And when I fall short, especially in the last few years, falling short when, the resources have been limited, and, I feel this shame. Maybe that's it. I feel this shame that there's something more I should be doing, that there's something more I could be doing. And it's not for lack of trying either. It's just, for some reason, I just keep getting, obstacles put in front of me, and I keep getting all these blocks, thrown in front of me. And I don't know if it's because I'm just supposed to learn how to go with the flow more. I thought that's what I was doing, but for me, I think that shame is fear. Last night when I was going to bed, I just had this thought run through my head that says, release the fear, wait, what did I say? It's in my notebook. Release the fear, receive the miracles. So, and miracles can be anything, like receive the flow, but release the fear, receive the miracles. And that kind of hit me hard. And I thought about that as I was falling asleep last night. And I thought, if I could do that, I'd probably release a lot of the shame, because I was thinking about the card last night. As I said, I pulled this on Tuesday and I was going to do it yesterday, but, today felt like a better day. And now I know why, because I'm tripping all over it. But one of the reasons I didn't start this live over, because sometimes if it feels like it's just going sideways really fast, I will just, and nobody's on the live, I'll stop and restart it, just because I figure, my thoughts are a little discombobulated. Maybe I didn't take my few breaths before I was supposed to start. But this time I kept it going, because I realized the reason I am tripping all over this card is, even though I was excited about it, I think I was excited from the wrong place. I thought I was going to be talking from a place of having released shame and having released all this stuff, and I haven't. There are things I am still feeling shameful about, and I've got to stop, because when we hold these low energies, we're blocking all the good stuff. Instead of being ashamed of where I'm at right now, I should be grateful and proud of the fact that I'm still here, right? Or that, we're making things work, or everything happens for a reason. When I say everything happens for a reason is, right now I'm responsible for a couple of people. Well, at least one person. And, I'm a poor older sibling. She had her surgery a couple months ago, and she's still in physical therapy, but because it's her dominant arm, her right arm, and her dominant, well, it was her bicep and her shoulder, that she needs a little extra help, and and everything in our house is ridiculously high. I don't know what it is. I mean, we're two short people living in a tall people's house, but even the microwave is high. So what the hell? But she can't lift her arm. She's not supposed to lift her arm above her head. So, instead of, thinking about how I'm letting everyone down, which they tell me I'm not, but I don't know. She tells me I'm not, but I still feel like it. I think that's where my shame lies. That's where my shame lies. I feel like there is something I could be doing, even though I am, as she says, we all do our best that we can every day. And I'm doing the best I can every day, and I'm doing my best to be a awesome sister and an awesome caregiver, which, I fall by the wayside. Yesterday I was super cranky, and I mean, everything was annoying me, but I do the majority of the time, I do on most days, do my best to be a good sibling, to be a good caregiver. And but like I said, I think my shame is that, I just feel like a lot of the potential stress that I think may be happening is my fault. And that brings me a great amount of shame. That brings me a great amount of shame, because then you start thinking, well, what would they be thinking of me if they were still here? What would they be mad at me? Would they be this? Would they be that? And I start overthinking about what other people would think instead of what I should be thinking. So I'm going to do my best to let go of that shame today. Because like I said, release the fear, receive the miracles. So today's soul action is heal the shame by giving it a name. Bring it to the light and let it be seen, heard, and healed. It's revival season. Replace the shame with your soul's truth. Fill in the blank. My soul's truth is, I'm doing the best I can. I'm doing the best I can. But for me, I do think, and see, here it comes. But for me, I do think I could be doing better. But maybe that's just it. Just go with the flow. Instead of thinking I could be doing better, just own who you are today. My soul truth is I'm doing the best I can today. And then see where it takes you. Sometimes when we release that fear and that shame, we open up doorways for ourselves. We open up these great energy doorways too, just letting the beautiful light and the love and everything from all around us just flow in. So, older sibling just said, no, you don't. You're awesome. Remove that shame. I'm trying. I know I'm not alone when I sit here and say that every single one of us can be very hard on ourselves. We may think that we can do better. We may think that, some things are silly. I was talking to a friend who, she says, well, I have this irrational fear of raccoons. And I thought, well, it's not irrational. Not everybody likes these cute little fuzzy, fluffy animals with hands. I mean, and they can be vicious. They can be vicious. But, but they're cute. But not everybody likes them. Right? And that's okay. I don't think that's an irrational fear. I mean, if that was the case, I have an irrational fear of clowns. I do. But the weird thing is, the super scary ones don't really scare me. It's the normal ones that kind of freak me out. Like Pennywise the clown, not a problem. Everyone's all, that's the scariest Pennywise ever. It's like, no, I thought Tim Curry's was, because he looked more like a regular clown. They weren't trying to make him scary. And, and that's the ones that you don't trust. But not that I want to see a clown staring at me from a sewer grate. But my point is that instead of shaming ourselves and saying it's an irrational fear because somebody else might think it's dumb, it's not. I mean, I think raccoons are cute. My friend doesn't. And that's okay. It's not an irrational fear. It is a fear that, people have their own fears. Like some people love spiders, sibling and I do not. Yet my fear doesn't paralyze me. It does her, and that's okay, because, you know, isn't that weird though, right? I mean, sure, it has 8 legs, but you have to think, why are we so afraid of them? I mean, we are like 1,000 times bigger than these little tiny things, and yet they paralyze us with fear. I don't know. I don't know. It's weird. Maybe it's because they have so many legs and they can move really fast. I don't know. But chances are, when you watch them, they're not moving towards you. They're running from you. So what does that tell you? They're like, shit, don't kill me. So I do try to save them and put them outside. I know I'm that weirdo. But it also helped me kind of overcome my fear a little bit. However, those are just some like mild examples, not even about shame. But, you know, but my friend did carry some shame with that. She's like, well, you're going to think it's weird. And believe it or not, that's a mild form of shame, because you're thinking, oh, well, I don't want to be judged. Right? And because I have this weird fear, we're not going to be, you shouldn't be judged. You shouldn't be judged for things. You know, I mean, I've known people who have some very interesting fears, and, you know, they always look at me and go, I know it's weird. And it's like, people, I have weird fears, okay? Most people I know love clowns. One of my dearest friends used to be in an act with her family as clowns. And I never saw them dressed up as them, but it's kind of like, no, I heart you, but no. So anyways, we all carry our things, but when we get deeper into the meaning, and we get deeper into the word shame, and we get deeper than these, you know, irrational fears that we might have, if you give it a name, you're bringing it to the light. And when you bring it to the light, you can heal it. So, you know, again, heal the shame by giving it a name, bring it to the light, and let it be seen, heard, and healed. It's revival season. Replace the shame with your soul's truth. You know what's interesting is 2 nights in a row now, I have seen the time that I was born. And I was born at night. I'm an evening baby. And I was born in, you know, so yeah, I was born in Hawaii. But I always joke on my big birthdays that because I grew up in California, and it would have been, you know, like after midnight when I was born, that I have 2 birthdays. Hey, you work it in any angle that you can. But I kind of kept thinking, like last night when I saw it again, I thought, oh, maybe this is a rebirth. And maybe what my rebirth requires is for me to let go of this final ounce of shame. You know, I've carried a lot of shame throughout my life that's been mine, or not mine, that's belonged to other people that made me feel that way. I've carried shame that has been mine, and I carry the shame now of what I just talked about. So I think it's time that we all give ourselves some grace, give ourselves some compassion, figure out what it is that we might feel ashamed of. And, you know, don't do the whole, well, society says I should be ashamed of this, you know. If you are living your life in a way that brings you joy, don't let other people shame you for it. Okay? Maybe let's go in this direction. You know, maybe you're single. Okay? And I my family gave up on the whole, are you ever going to get married? Are you going to ever find somebody? I think they just given up on me. But there are some people who be like, you know, if you're not with someone, oh, well, you must be this or you must be that. If you're happy, don't let them shame you. People are always going to be judgmental. They're always going to be that judgmental person. We can be judgmental, right? I mean, I think there's not a day that goes by that we're not judging something. No matter how hard we try not to. We're human. We're going to be judgy about things. But when we're judgy to someone's face, in the sense that we want them to live how we think they should live, no. Because that can make the other person feel, you know, very shameful about their choices. Maybe they like the life that they're living. Maybe they're happy being the way they are. I mean, I don't know. It's just an example. But you never know. So don't make other people feel bad about their choices. Don't make other people feel bad and give them shame. And if somebody is making you feel bad about your choices, that's their problem. That's not yours. Let go of that shame right now. Okay? Just let it go. Wash your hands of it. Because if someone else is judging you and making you feel bad about yourself, that's their problem. That's their problem. Okay, so just be you, do you. You know, as baby sibling would say, just doing the do, right? Just doing the do. That's all we can do every day. So again, I want to apologize. I almost feel like I should be apologizing for how this show went, but I'm not going to, and I'll tell you why. Because as I mentioned not that long ago, the reason I didn't start this show over again, just to reiterate, is because I want people to see how difficult it can be to face our shame. You know, if you're watching this and you're carrying some kind of shame, or you feel like there's some kind of shame but you can't quite put a pin on it or put a finger on it, just think through all the things. Do it carefully, because you don't want to, you don't want to hurt yourself mentally either. And by that I mean you don't want to send yourself into a spiral. But write things down. I mean, am I ashamed of this? Check, no. Already healed that. Am I ashamed of this? Check, no. I already healed that. Am I ashamed of this? Oh. Because you never know. And don't focus so hard on it that you try to figure it out. Because once you put it into your head that you're trying to figure out what it is, it will eventually come to you. And it'll come to you at the time that it feels, that your body and your mind feels that you were strong enough to handle it. So just go with the flow. Going with the flow is not easy for me, but it's getting easier. And that's what we need to do. We just need to give ourselves some grace, give ourselves some compassion, and I promise you, I will do the same. This was not an easy topic. I thought it would be a lot easier than it was. Boy, was I wrong. But I learned something today too. So thank you for being on that journey with me, because I feel like I learned something today, and I've got to stop projecting in certain degrees when I say, well, you're mad at me because of this, and when they're not. It's like, well, I know that it's my fault that, and it's like, no, it's not. So, and poor older sibling, she sits there, tries so hard every day to just keep me on an even level, so that I stop shaming myself and I stop blaming myself for anything, and I appreciate that from her. So thank you. But yeah, let's do better for ourselves, okay? Let's give ourselves some compassion and give ourselves some grace, and so we can move through what we need to move through, and we can, feel it to heal it, go through it to grow through it, and bring it up and out so that it's gone and we can release it. All right. So today's card, the affirmators card, I refuse to deprive myself of the tiny, splurgy pleasures that spark my daily joy. I'm a lot more fun when I'm not a hollow, gray-eyed husk of resentment. So there you go. The reason I thought this card could go with the shame card is, because a lot of times we may think, well, I shouldn't be doing that because, it's not feasible, or it's not this, or it's not that. And you know what? Just enjoy yourself today. All right. Just enjoy yourself today. Do whatever it is that you have to do, and bring yourself joy, because when you bring yourself joy, you're able to spread that joy to other people, and everybody wins. So again, I refuse to deprive myself of the tiny, splurgy pleasures that spark my daily joy. I'm a lot more fun when I'm not a hollow, gray-eyed husk of resentment. Sometimes when we hold all that stuff in, we can become that gray-eyed husk of resentment, and nobody likes that. So I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day. Please, please, please take care of yourselves. I know this was a difficult subject, but when we do better for ourselves, we can do better for the people around us as well. But remember to focus on you first. Get yourself better, get yourself healed, get yourself into a place where you can enjoy life and not just freak out over it. Not just feel like, oh my God, So, okay. Again, have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see everybody back here tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, Facebook Live. All lives are public. Please, tomorrow is Aloha Oracle Friday. That's right. We're back to the oracles tomorrow. So, even if you think it might be out of your comfort zone, pop in anyways. You never know. I always work from a good place. I work from a safe space. So you never know what messages might be meant for you that you would miss, because, you're worried about what might be going on in there. So again, I only work from a safe space. All right. So have a great day. Thank you so much for watching.